The draft statement out of an EU summit suggests European leaders are likely to avoid direct mention of alleged Chinese involvement in Russia's war in Ukraine. But there is concern about Beijing's relations with Moscow. The document reportedly points to the European Council strongly condemning support by third countries for Russia's war efforts. The draft accuses North Korea and Iran of providing weapons and, in Pyongyang's case, sending troops to the battlefield to fight against Ukraine. Reports suggest several EU states had pushed for China being named and could raise this at the summit in Brussels. Beijing has repeatedly rejected allegations that it is assisting Russia's war effort, saying it has maintained normal trade relations with both Russia and Ukraine. Now, for more, William Denselow joins us live now from Brussels. Will, the draft statement by EU leaders on Ukraine includes North Korea and Iran, but not China. How should we read into this?
Well, that's absolutely right. Instead, the European Council statement, as it currently exists, of course, it is still subject to change, calls for third-party actors to cease their military assistance for Russia with immediate effect. So no direct message there to Beijing. And according to diplomats, well, there's seemingly somewhat of a divergence in opinions on the issue among the EU's 27 member states. Some, the likes of Lithuania, calling for stronger wordage on condemnation for China. Others, including Germany, perhaps a little bit more cautious in that approach. But of course, this really comes as there is a degree of concern amongst member states not to tarnish the likes of North Korea, Iran, the same brushes that used with China, citing different levels of assistance provided to Russia. However, of course, the adage goes that actions speak louder than words. And if we cast our minds back just a few days, the EU passed a 15th sanctions package on Russia. For the first time, Chinese entities were included on that sanctions list for allegations of providing drone technology to Russia. Of course, as you rightly mentioned, that has irked Beijing and invoked a strong response, saying that they'll look into necessary measures as a result.
As we know, Will, Ukraine is worried about the upcoming Trump administration's position on the war. What does the EU plan to do to firm up support for Ukraine and solidify Washington's support?
On that issue of the United States, of course, the inauguration of Donald Trump on January 20th very much looms large over this summit here. All eyes will be on when Donald Trump takes the oath of office and what exactly Donald Trump's stance on Ukraine will be when he's in the Oval Office. There's been plenty of rhetoric before then, but essentially the message from diplomats, from elected officials here in Brussels is that it's a wait-and-see approach. Will Donald Trump actually follow through on some of his claims he's made in the past? However, there has been some strong rhetoric coming out of this summit. The likes of Lithuania's president coming out and saying that Ukraine's future will be decided here in Europe. So somewhat perhaps of a veiled threat to the incoming US president. Significantly, we've also heard from Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, who is attending this meeting. He's called on a list of demands he wants from his allies, things like a greater protection for Ukraine's energy sector, more air defenses going forward. Significantly on that issue of US-EU ties, he said that unity is absolutely essential between EU member states and Washington going forward.
William Denselow reporting live from Brussels there. Thank you, Will.